In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what happened, from how a tiny waterway became a flashpoint to what this means for the future of war itself. Okay, so let's start with a really big question. What if one single country could just turn off the world's oil tap? It's the kind of thing that keeps strategists up at night. But in 2026, it's not a hypothetical anymore. The Strait of Hormuz, the planet's most critical choke point for energy, is right at the heart of this thing. And believe me, the repercussions are being felt everywhere. All right, so how did we get here? How did this happen? Well, Iran has basically taken an international superhighway for ships and turned it into its own private toll booth. Let's dig into the mechanics of what everyone is now calling the Hormuz Toll Booth. And this right here is the absolute core of the issue. Iran's military is now stopping every single ship that tries to pass through. They're demanding to see everything, manifests, crew details, the whole shebang. They've essentially created this system of, you could call it, geopolitical vetting, declaring the whole area a war zone and flat out blocking ships from the US, Israel, and any of their allies. But here's where it gets really interesting. Not everyone is being blocked. Iran is using this control almost like a surgical tool, letting 5 so-called friendly nations pass. And if you look at this list, you can see the strategy, right? China and India, they're the ones keeping Iran's energy economy afloat. Russia is their big military partner. But what's really fascinating here is the money. Reports are saying these passage fees are increasingly being paid in Chinese Yuan. That's a direct shot at the US dollar's long-held grip on the global energy market. But, this whole crisis isn't just about ships and blockades. It's being fought with some truly revolutionary new technology, which is why people are already calling it the second drone war. Let's dig into how this is completely changing the rules of the game. The magic word here, unjammable. We are seeing a massive shift. Drones aren't just support tools anymore. They're not just eyes in the sky. They are now the main event, the primary weapon. And it's all because of a pretty simple but totally brilliant technological breakthrough. Yeah, and this slide shows you exactly what that breakthrough is. See, your typical drone, it's controlled by a radio link. And radio links, well, they can be jammed. But these new FPV drones are different. They're physically tied to their operator by this super thin, almost invisible fiber-optic cable. And you can't jam a physical wire. It makes them totally immune to the usual defenses. They can fly super low, stay off the radar, and then, bam, strike with incredible precision. And that is the real game changer. I mean, think about it. All of a sudden, non-state militias, groups without an air force, have the power to carry out a precision airstrike. That's a capability that used to belong only to the world's most powerful militaries. It just completely flips the entire balance of power on its head. So naturally, this has kicked off a crazy technological arms race. The US and Israel are scrambling, and they're rolling out some seriously next-gen defenses. We're talking about laser weapons like the Iron Beam and Helios, which are designed to zap these drones out of the sky on the cheap. And we're also seeing new missile systems like the PSM being used for the very first time to hit targets deep inside Iran. But even with all this new high-tech gear, look at the mass. It's just brutal. You have a $50,000 Iranian drone being taken out by a $3 million US interceptor missile. You just can't win that numbers game. It turns the conflict into a war of attrition where the economics are completely, wildly unsustainable for the defenders. So you've got this high-tech, super expensive war happening in this tiny little strait, and the ripple effects are being felt everywhere. Let's talk about the global supply shock that's now in full swing. First thing everyone noticed? The price of oil. I mean, it went nuts. In just a few weeks, the price per barrel shot up to $104. And that sent economic shockwaves through pretty much every single part of the global economy. But, and this is the twist that honestly nobody saw coming, while everyone was obsessing over oil, another, arguably more critical, supply chain was just completely falling apart. People are calling it the Helium Hitch. See, the Persian Gulf is a huge producer of refined gases, and because of the fighting, there's now a global shortage of helium. Now, why should you care? Well, liquid helium is absolutely essential for cooling the massive magnets inside MRI scanners. The result? Hospitals all over the world are having to delay critical medical scans and diagnostic procedures, all because of a conflict happening thousands of miles away. And for Iran's neighbors, the impact is even more immediate and, frankly, terrifying. The Gulf states? They get about 80% of their food through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, with 70% of those imports completely cut off, they are facing what's being called a grocery supply emergency. They're literally having to airlift in basic food just to keep their people fed. Okay, so with all this chaos unfolding, you can bet there's a frantic diplomatic push behind the scenes to try and find a way out of this mess. So let's take a look at the high-stakes peace plan that's currently on the table. The U.S., using Pakistan as a go-between, has handed Tehran a 15-point proposal. And let's be clear, it's basically an ultimatum. It demands the complete shutdown of Iran's nuclear program, a total stop to all funding for proxy groups like Hezbollah, and, of course, the full reopening of the strait. If they agree, the U.S. says all sanctions will be lifted. So what was Iran's response? Well, they came back publicly with their own list of demands. They want an end to the targeted killings of their officials. They want legal guarantees that there will be no more wars against Iran, full payment for all the damages from airstrikes, and, this is the big one, they want formal international recognition of their sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. As you can imagine, the result is this huge diplomatic canyon between the two sides. Iran publicly shot down the U.S. plan, calling it maximalist and unreasonable. So for now, we're at a total stalemate while the fighting just keeps going. So with the diplomats stuck, another battle is heating up, one that's being fought on our screens and on our phones. This is the war for the narrative. Yeah, in response to getting hit militarily, Iran has shifted its focus to an all-out information war, and their main weapon? It's not drones this time. It's incredibly sophisticated AI-generated deepfakes. The goal is to just flood social media and sow confusion and distrust across the West. And we're not talking about clumsy, obvious fakes here. We are seeing viral videos of a U.S. aircraft carrier supposedly on fire, synthetically generated mushroom clouds appearing over Tehran, even faked funeral scenes with digitally copied faces on the children. For the average person just scrolling through their feed, it has become almost impossible to know what's real and what's completely made up. And this digital war is having a very real effect back home. In the United States, it's kicked up all these rumors and a ton of anxiety about a potential military draft, even though pretty much every expert says it's extremely unlikely to happen. Which brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. We're in this new age of warfare, right? It's defined by these cheap, almost unstoppable drone swarms, and by a digital battlefield where truth itself seems to be the first casualty. So in a world like this, even if they manage to sign a peace deal, can it actually hold?